Our beautiful Hawaiian Islands, formed by one of nature's most stunning phenomena, are facing continuing and emerging threats. Climate change, creating extreme weather conditions, blistering heat waves and drought, tropical cyclones, and powerful winds.
Hawaii is a very fire-prone state, and that is a situation that's not going to change. We have increased drought episodes, human-caused wildfire ignitions. We have a very combustible landscape. We have built environments that were developed at a time when wildfire safety wasn't front and center. So we have all the recipe for a long-term wildfire situation.
But it's not too late. Working together, we can reduce Hawaii's wildfire risk.
Fire doesn't respect fence lines, it doesn't respect jurisdictions, it impacts everything from our watershed forests to our coral reefs and the communities and municipal infrastructure in between. So wildfire is an everyone issue, and it takes all of us kind of knowing what our role is and doing our parts to prevent and prepare for wildfires, to deal with incidents, and then to recover afterwards. So collaboration is key to making any of that happen.
Wildfire risk is a whole of society challenge. Everyone has a role to play in here. The location of infrastructure, how we operate all of it, what we design our systems to withstand needs to be done in coordination with other stakeholders, other infrastructure owners, and of course, emergency management agencies as well.
It has to be a holistic approach. So when we come to look at those kind of issues, it has to be starting from our community planning, dealing with our electrical grid, dealing with how we are going to respond, but also how people are going to maintain their homes and what they're allowed to build out of. All of it needs to be considered because all of it has an effect on whether or not that fire is able to come out and take on a community.
We've been really busy doing home assessments for free for the community. I tend to look what's in the gutter because the firebrands can get airborne. That's the flying embers from this fuel source and end up in the gutters and ignite that. In the fuel, whatever's debris in the gutters, and then it starts the chaos from lighting the rafters and then going into the eaves and carries on over and over. Some people, they tend to have windbreak trees. I suggest they ladder the branches up so that if there's fuel underneath, just a guideline of 6 feet, I think, of laddering, of clearing the underbrush by 6 feet so that the fuel source can't ignite the tree itself.
Native plants are really important because they are a part of the historical landscape in these areas that have experienced so many devastating fires, human impact, things like that. We're using it to create a fire break to protect against wildfires. We're using it for restoration purposes to bring back native plants and also as seed stock for future planting events.
Is going to take all of us taking action together to get to where Hawaii is wildfire ready, wildfire prepared, wildfire safe and resilient. And there's no one cause of wildfire, there's no one solution, there's no one party or sector responsible, since it does take everybody and all kinds of expertise and participation to move the needle on fire preparedness and protection.
Good afternoon again, everyone. What a great video. This video that you just saw was used to open up a symposium that Hawaiian Electric and about 80 other different people and organizations came together in Hilo to really kick off a discussion, a continuing discussion on how do we make our communities safer and protect them from future wildfires. And that symposium that we held in April really kind of followed what you heard today, or in the video from Elizabeth, from Chief Todd, from Mike, and from Yumi, around how we have a need to work together to address this threat that we all face. And that challenge and the solutions that we need to come through comes from fostering communications across many, many different organizations and businesses, sharing information that we all each collecting within our functions, and then using that shared information to work together to find common solutions. That's not just a solution for one organization, or not just for Hawaiian Electric, or not just for this community association, but solutions that can help all of us. And we had a lot of good discussions in the symposium, learning from some experts from the mainland, mostly the Western utilities in the U.S., but also from folks in Australia who have also faced a significant wildfire threat, as well as from Puerto Rico. And this symposium that we conducted in April is really just a start. And it's a start to many things, but it's also a start, if you can bring up the slides, to our safety strategy that we're updating this year. That safety strategy, for those of you who are familiar with Hawaiian Electric's integrated grid plan, or actually were stakeholders in that process, this will look very familiar. But we felt it was very important to take our existing wildfire safety strategies that we've been working on going back to 2017 and really involve key stakeholders in the design and the updating of our strategy this year. We can share information, we can share data to do the proper assessment and analysis, leveraging a lot of expertise that lies outside of the electric utility that can affect and make better our plans. We want to take that combined knowledge and information ultimately to develop risk-based analytical solutions to identify the kinds of wildfire risk reduction initiatives that Hawaiian Electric should be undertaking. And those strategies that we define in here will be implemented over the next 3 years. Right? But that whole process involves different working groups, different communities, lots of discussions around how do we make the strategies we're refreshing and updating appropriate for all of the 5 islands that we serve. And I want to be clear, the strategy that this video kicked off isn't a start of Hawaiian Electric's work in doing wildfire safety reductions. We're updating our plans while we're already taking steps. So you see here on the left what we call our interim wildfire safety measures, which are actions that we're taking today, building and stepping up work that we've been going on for the last 10+ years to harden our electric grids and make our systems more safe and secure. So a little bit about that. The strategy that we're developing isn't starting from a blank sheet of paper, right? We're really trying to leverage the work that has been done to date and make our plans even better than what we think they are today. And very consistent with a lot of other electric utilities who are much further down in maturity in wildfire safety strategies, we have 4 critical pillars that we're focusing on today and as a start of our plans going forward. The first is to build situational awareness. We have several cameras, video cameras, as well as a few weather stations deployed along our infrastructure so that we know what's going on at different places on our grid. But we know we want to do a lot more. So later this year, we're going to be deploying dozens and dozens of additional cameras and weather stations, not just in different parts of the island, but physically located right on our poles, right at substations, so we know what kind of wind, what kind of humidity, and what kind of other conditions our infrastructure is facing out in the field. And we also want to leverage data and information for weather and video imagery with others, right? So we want to make open our information so that fire departments and other emergency responding agencies have more data to help their operations. And we'd like to get access to weather data from other sources as well to make our assessments and operational awareness more complete. We have implemented a number of operational changes and practices. We've been doing vegetation management and inspections of our infrastructure since long before I started at Hawaiian Electric 33 years ago. But we've really stepped that work up, really focused around doing vegetation trimming and doing inspections of our infrastructure with the mind of reducing the risk of any ignitions occurring from our equipment. We've also taken operational steps to reduce the amount of energy that our infrastructure could introduce to the ground or to vegetation should there be an instance where our infrastructure makes contact with them. And we're doing things like fast tripping, which is shutting down our circuits much more quickly with less energy introduced in that fault, as well as something called blocking of reclosures, which means basically not allowing our circuits to make an attempt to re-energize after they see a problem. Those operational changes are almost complete. We're still underway in implementing this in some circuits. We're focusing this in areas of our communities with the highest risk of wildfire based on things like historical wind speed and the types of fuels that are located in the area. But these settings come with a price. They come with the price of making a very hard trade-off between protection against wildfire risk and the trade-off of lower reliability on those circuits, more outages basically, and longer outages when they do occur. The last operational strategy that we really want to focus on is something called public safety power shutoffs. You heard it talked about yesterday in an earlier session, and that's just the notion of preemptively shutting off power when conditions out in the field raises the risk of a circuit or part of our infrastructure being at risk of being damaged and ultimately causing an ignition source. We're also hardening our grid, replacing structures with stronger ones that can withstand higher wind speeds. And we want to provide more information, more education to our communities that we serve to better understand what we can do in conjunction with them to protect our communities from these wildfire risks. I've been focusing about the strategy that we want to do this year that leads to work that we do over the next 3 years. But I really want to remind all of ourselves that this doesn't go away in a couple of years, right? Reducing wildfire risk is going to be a continuous marathon for all of us. We're very focused now in the near term to take these immediate actions to reduce that risk today and tomorrow. But we have to continue to work on this to look for longer-term solutions that work best for each of our communities. And so things like building resilience hubs and microgrids that can reduce the wildfire risk as well as serve communities during periods of power shutoffs or high winds. These are the kinds of things we need to start talking about now for the long term, but we need to make sure that we're taking action today to ensure that we can reduce the risk of wildfires and not wait for these longer-term solutions to come into place. So again, short-term actions and a lot of long-term work. Even with this big screen, it's hard to see this. This is just an image. If you guys have a phone, you can pick up that QR code and see our webpage that has this information. This is just a fun graphic to show the kinds of things that are envisioned for our grid today as well as into the future. So you can see and envision what a grid that has lower wildfire risk, what it looks like, what it means to you when you see that in your neighborhood. So you see things with like a lot of technology on our grid, reclosers and sensors, weather stations, the replacement of bare overhead conductors with covered conductors, right, that won't fault when they come into contact with the ground. And strategic undergrounding in places, especially in locations where we have our poles and lines running along critical evacuation and egress routes for various communities. These are the kinds of things that we're envisioning in the future. We want to make these ideas and concepts better as we develop our strategy the remaining of this year, working with all of our partners and stakeholders across the different sectors that we're working with. So hopefully one day soon, you start seeing our crews out in your neighborhoods doing inspections, trimming back vegetation, replacing a pole with a stronger one, maybe wood with steel, or a class 3 with a class 1 pole. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking to do, and hopefully you'll see that in your neighborhoods in the coming days. And so with that, thank you guys very much. Really appreciate you all being here. I'm told that I just violated the rules for the Hawaii Energy Conference, because I think this is the 3rd time you're seeing me in 2 days, which is way too much even for my wife. So thank you guys for being all here.